Time to move on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the Reserve Bank of New Zealand amending primary function of the Bank Act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is really interesting that we have this bill as a members' bill, because this is one of the bills that will be remembered as a turning of the course of economic history in this country. It may not get up, but the debate is showing already that the old orthodoxy is crumbling. Now, John Banks, and the word Banks doesn't mean he's at ATM, even though you wonder, John Banks said, and I quote, he wants investment, growth and jobs. Isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we all want? All around this house, we want investment, growth and jobs. The question is, on the facts, is the current Reserve Bank Act delivering? And the answer is patently no. Here is what it has delivered. It's been extremely successful at inflation control. And in the last 2 weeks, we've had the new data, 0.8% inflation this year, 0.8. It's well below the new target the government's brought in of 2%. It's even below the bottom end of the range of 1.3. We've overdosed on inflation control. Meanwhile, what's going on in the real economy? Well, let's take the financial economy. The ratio of New Zealand dollars being traded to our actual external trade and investment flows is 400 to 1. More dollars are speculated in the Kiwi dollar in a day than it takes to finance our trade in and out for a year. Is it any wonder, when we are a speculator's plaything, that our exchange rate is climbing and climbing and climbing, and it's 83, 84 cents against the US dollar, and it's 73 odd on the trade-weighted index, and it is killing our exporters. 40,000 manufacturing jobs gone since 2008 when this government took office. 40,000 manufacturing, high-value manufacturing jobs. Nobody's told Bill English and Stephen Joyce. Today, Bill English stood in this House, virtually misled the House. I say virtually because he was using different statistics. He said there's no crisis in manufacturing. Well, here are the facts. Simply transformed manufacturing export value declined 14% in the last 4 years, elaborately transformed by over 10%. It's on its way down. That's in real terms. In real terms, it is sliding and the jobs are going. Now, that's not an accident. It is a direct function of the settings of current policy. And if we want to change the outcome, we change the policy. This is actually a moderate bill. This bill just says change the objectives of the Act. It says nothing about quantitative easing. That's a complete strawman argument by John Banks. It's not Labor's policy to have mandated quantitative easing. That's a matter for the Reserve Bank's good judgment. It's good enough for the United States. It's good enough for the United Kingdom. It's good enough for the financially literate Swiss government. It's good enough for half of Europe. It's good enough for Asia. Well, who knows whether it's the right thing for New Zealand, but we say leave it to the qualified experts. But don't rule it out, National, just because it's not part of your ideology or your orthodoxy. Don't hamstring the bank, and don't tie the bank to a set of objectives that belong to the days of the credit bubble before the great financial crisis, the global financial crisis, in a different world. Now, I don't know who it was who said a reasonable person, when confronted with new information, changes their mind. What do you do? The world is changed. The bubble is burst. We don't have an inflation problem. Inflation's below the target range. We have an employment problem. We have the world's second highest current account deficit. By next year, the highest current account deficit in the world. That is a crisis. That will take a coordinated policy response, and changing the Reserve Bank has got to be part of that response, because when David Parker and I tour around manufacturing and exporting businesses, as Andrew Little and others of our colleagues have done, every time they tell us, for God's sake, the exchange rate's killing us. help us to earn a decent day's work, help us to take New Zealand forward, give us a level playing field. Please change the Reserve Bank Act. This bill does.
Todd McClay.
The last speaker in the debate.